In this edition, we're going to be answering the question, how strong is strong enough for speed? Now, if you know me at all, you know I'm going to talk a little bit about it, but the short answer is you have to be pretty strong, but maybe not crazy strong, maybe not quite as strong as you think. So before we answer the exact question about how strong exactly, we need to understand some of the components of strength. So there's a few different kinds of strength. The kind of strength that allows you to lift something off the ground, that's called concentric strength. Eccentric strength is when you lower something. You can always lower about 20% more than you can lift. So our body is more able to take some force when you're landing than it is being able to jump, for example. Then there's another component called isometric strength, and that is how much force and how quickly some of that is. You can put force into something that's immovable. And sometimes it's kind of like being able to push against something. Other times it's more like how well you're able to hold a position. So can your joint hold a position without deforming or giving in to the external forces? Now, some of that is also related to something called your reactive strength index. And you're going to hear that a lot these days, especially if you're looking up information on how strong you need to be to run fast or how to run fast. So it's called RSI, the reactive strength index. And essentially, it is a measure of how quickly you can generate force into the ground, put it into the ground, and kind of maintain your joint integrity versus a lot of bending or deformation. If you think about when you're sprinting, every time your foot hits the ground, there's some braking, and your ankle's going to give a little bit, your knee's going to give a little bit, your hips, and then you're going to push off. The less give that you are able to give, or if you're able to maintain that stiffness, you're able to use your elastic strength easier, and you're not going to lose so much to that joint deformation. So we've got concentric, lifting, eccentric, lowering, isometric, holding, and your reactive strength index, where you're able to put a lot of force really quickly into the ground. You also have absolute strength versus relative strength, and that's where a lot of the questions get answered. So absolute strength is how much you can actually lift. So you put a bar on your back and you're going to do squats. What's the total amount of weight you can lift? That's your absolute strength. But your relative strength is how much strength you can lift relative to your body or your body weight. So if I weigh about 180 pounds and I put 360 pounds on my back, that's double my body weight. That is about as much as you need, as much strength as you need to be able to run really fast. But if I weighed 300 pounds and I had 360 pounds on my back, now it's like, that's okay, but you would need to get a little bit stronger. So that number, 2 times your body weight that I just mentioned, is about as much strength as all the research has found that's going to really transfer over to speed. Somewhere between 1.8 and 2 times your body weight is about as strong as you need to be in order to run fast. Getting even stronger than that takes a lot of time and a lot of energy and doesn't really seem to give any benefit in regards to running faster. But that's just for squats, and there's a lot more to strength than just squats. But everybody wants to hear that number. How much do I need to squat to run fast? About 2 times your body weight. More than that, not really necessary. If you can't squat more than about 1.5 times your body weight, it's going to be a big factor in your speed development, and you're going to want to add strength. Now, most of these studies are done with parallel squats. So a parallel squat is when your thighs get parallel to the ground. That's considered a really good squat. But when you're running, you never get anywhere close to that joint angle. In fact, you're barely doing a quarter squat. So there are also studies that are showing that quarter and half squats might be more appropriate for sprinting. Now, I'm not telling you don't do a full squat. I love like a little bit long or larger range of motion squats for muscular development and hypertrophy, But for absolute or relative strength that's going to be transferred to speed, a shorter squat might be more appropriate. You're also going to be able to lift a lot more weight. Now, those studies also, almost all of them are just doing that parallel squat. They're not really taking too many, there's not many studies taking into consideration how strong your calves are, how strong your hamstrings are, how strong your glutes are. There are some that look at it, but there haven't been any real definitive studies because most of those muscles work with each other. The key is having balanced strength, so all of your muscles are strong. You need to be doing strength training for your glutes and your hamstrings and your adductors, as well as your quads and even your calves. Your calves often get trained with plyometric type of exercises and sprinting just by itself, but you do need to have strong calves, especially the ability to not have that joint deformation when your foot hits the ground. Something else to consider with strength is the faster you move a weight, the more power you can generate to a certain extent, but you will produce less overall force. So if you think about somebody with a bar on their back, if they're going to do a really heavy squat, it happens pretty slowly. It usually takes like about 2 seconds to squat the weight up. If you lower the weight, you can move it a lot faster. You'll be able to create a lot more power, and that's going to start to transfer over to speed a little bit better. So while you want to work on your total amount of strength, you are also going to want to work on using lighter weights and moving them faster. Those could even be weighted jumps, just holding dumbbells in your hand and jumping. That's going to move the weight and your body a lot faster than just a regular squat. So understand that there is slow force and that there's also fast force. But really, if you're listening to all of this and you're understanding the different components of strength, you're starting to gather that just being strong is not necessarily going to make you run faster. If that were the case, then power lifters would be the fastest people in the world, and they're just not. They're really strong, but they're not the fastest people in the world. So a lot of this has to do with force application, your ability to put that force into the ground, put it in the right direction, and put it in the ground as fast as you possibly can. And that's where that RSI comes into play. So how strong do you have to be to run really fast? The bottom line is you got to be able to squat about 1.8 to 2 times your body weight. Might not have to be a full squat, and then you're also going to have to balance everything out, have strong hamstrings, glutes, calves, adductors, everything, and then be able to put it in the ground as fast as you can by doing other activities besides just strength training, like plyometrics, weighted sprints, and just flat out sprinting. If you want to be fast, at some point, you're going to have to spend a lot of time sprinting as fast as you can. So hopefully that answers your question of how strong you need to be to run fast. And in the next episode, we're going to start talking about the difference between acceleration and top end speed. And you're going to see how some of the strength and the other stuff that I've already been talking about in previous videos is going to come together so that you can get good at both acceleration and top end speed, and then start to understand how to mix those together. If you have any questions about that, make sure that you comment below. And if you're in the Novi, Michigan area, come and see me. You can find me just by looking me up. And if you are not in the area, you can also put a comment in and we can connect online, and I can help get you more information that will help you even more.